Okay, Netflix just dropped a movie, a SpongeBob movie, Plankton. Now, here's the thing about SpongeBob that I'm going to go into a lot of detail about, because it's hard to talk about anything new SpongeBob without talking about what was there before. Yes, SpongeBob is about 25 years old. It's hard to believe. Now, a lot of people have grown up with SpongeBob, but here's the problem. SpongeBob has not really grown up with them. That is the major problem I'm seeing in SpongeBob now. A few years ago, I think they had that movie Sponge on the Run, which I think was just sort of released to... I think it came out around 2020, so they couldn't really release it to theaters. The thing that Paramount has realized about SpongeBob is he's essentially their Mickey Mouse. He's like Disney's Mickey Mouse or Warner Brothers' Bugs Bunny. He is the mascot of Paramount because everybody knows about this SpongeBob. My kids essentially grew up with SpongeBob. And part of that was just, I saw the DVDs at the library, and I just said, well, I might as well watch these. And I put them in and I watched them with my kids, and I went like, wow, these are actually pretty funny. And even as an adult, the first few seasons of SpongeBob are very hysterical and they're very good. And they don't include you're watching something and they have a joke that only adults would get. There's a few of those thrown in now and then for the adult connoisseur and going where as a kid you realize, oh, that's what they meant by this. But yeah, for the most part, SpongeBob could be enjoyed at any age, which was really interesting, and it's hard to do. I mean, comedy is actually very, very hard to write. And if you just go for jokes where pies get thrown in the face or other sort of pratfalls, it's not that funny. But SpongeBob, the character himself, that's kind of a hard type of comedy that has been done. Now, the original creator, I believe, is Stephen Hillenbrand. He wanted to do a show where there was a character like, say, Jerry Lewis, a character who would do constant little dumb things like that and get in a lot of dumb adventures and oftentimes carry people around him into those adventures. And we had characters like Squidward and Mr. Krabs and Sandy Cheeks and, of course, Patrick that usually would get tied up with this. And the best thing about SpongeBob was there wasn't really any continuity. It was the type of shows that that I kind of grew up with were like Bugs Bunny and stuff like that, where essentially you just throw this character into a zany adventure, and it didn't even matter if at the end, the character even died or anything like that, or whatever. I've seen episodes of SpongeBob where Squidward eats a pie that has a bomb in it and a mushroom cloud goes off, okay? And they went back to the next episode the next time, and there's not really a lot of continuity there. And I actually kind of enjoy the fact that that is like that. You can watch this episode and just this is its own little thing, and and a lot of times it has been good. But I'm actually told that Stephen Hillenbrand kind of left the franchise probably around the first movie, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which I think is one of the best animated films, maybe not ever made, but it certainly was the best animated film maybe of that year. And it certainly is a quantum leap as far as wow. I've seen animated shows turned into movies, and this one I feel was sort of okay, this is how you do this. And it followed the basic blueprint where you take the character who's normally in this place and then you throw them into something else. And in this case, SpongeBob kind of had to go to the real world to retrieve a crown for King Neptune. And, oh gosh, it was so good. The problem is, like I said, SpongeBob, it feels like every animated show now tends to grow up. If you look at shows shows that got popular with adults, say Steven Universe or Adventure Time, those shows really grew up. They started tackling issues that were very difficult, and as a result, they still have a following because of that. The thing about SpongeBob is it's a comedy show, so they don't have the leeway to handle issues like that, and I don't blame them for not handling that. SpongeBob is supposed to be kind of fun, but it's not brainless fun. There's a lot of I've seen a lot of episodes of SpongeBob which bring up a lot of interesting issues. I personally love the Sailor Talk one, which brings up the issue of swearing, but in such a way that I actually think not only kids can understand it, adults can understand it, and and they can even talk about it afterwards. And it's done in such a way that nobody ever has to say a swear word. And they just play the little dolphin speak. One of my favorite episodes. It's awesome. I absolutely love this thing. But, and yeah, so I've got good memories of SpongeBob, even though I didn't grow up with it, but I think I've mostly just watched my kids really grow up with it, really. Maybe that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty old and stuff. Anyway, so, and I think once Steven Hillenburg passed away, I think Paramount realized, like, we need to milk this thing for all it's worth. So they created this sort of SpongeBob connected universe. Patrick Star got his own show. And they made that show Camp Coral, which is apparently like a prequel of SpongeBob. And they changed the animation style of it, because I guess it's easier to do 3D animation than it is to do 2D animation. Yeah, so when SpongeBob with 2D animation, that was kind of really the only way you could do animated shows back then. But it was trying to do it in such a rather interesting way. And I have to admit, if you watch early seasons of SpongeBob, compared it to the next, yeah, the characters' voices aren't quite right. The animation looks kind of a little choppy and faded, but I mean, they found their stride, and they were able to make SpongeBob, well, SpongeBob. But, so when I saw Sponge on the Run a few years ago, it wasn't that good. It was like, I mean, they had Keanu Reeves in there just simply because he's Keanu Reeves. I mean, and really they kind of did that with David Hasselhoff in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie originally. But I didn't really feel like that was used very well. I kind of felt like, oh, we just kind of have that there, and it's just because Keanu Reeves is pretty popular, and then we just kind of do stuff is kind of the issue. And it's just like, you know, and so yeah, and then they made that Sandy Cheeks movie, which I really didn't like. I kind of thought, well, this is really not very good. And then the Plankton movie, I think, I wouldn't say it's the final nail in the coffin, but I think it shows where SpongeBob is. And apparently SpongeBob has been infantilized. I always mispronounce this word. But it's been made juvenilized. It shouldn't be that. I feel like the writers, I mean, I feel like they're really aiming for jokes that 5-year-olds would like, rather than say anyone of any age could like. There's a difference between juvenile humor and humor for all ages. It's nothing that I as an adult can appreciate. And watching that with my son, who's now 18, I could tell he wasn't really appreciating the show, the Plankton movie, either. The Plankton movie deals with a plot line that honestly I haven't really talked about, and I'm at the 8-minute mark of this thing, which is really weird. But hey, I love Plankton. I think he's one of the, I always thought he was one of the best characters, and whenever you need an evil scheme, you just have him there. And I always loved his line delivery on how he can be, he has these weird mood swings on how he can just talk like he's rational. He'll go from rational to irrational on the turn of a dime, and I swear, it's crazy. And that's what made this character really shine. And he's voiced by some guy named who's known as simply Mr. Lawrence, and I believe he actually helped write the film. And it's really about his relationship between him and Karen, which, apparently, I know this. I realize we use the term Karen to signify something else, but I believe that's a very recent term that has shown up. So the fact that his wife is named Karen, that was just a random name they just picked. You know, she could have been Anna or something like that, is what I'm saying. Karen has nothing to do with that term they use, Karen, okay? Anyway, so apparently she gets sick of Plankton's schemes to dominate the world always failing, so she takes it upon herself to upgrade herself, and then she becomes this monster who starts to take over Bikini Bomb and then eventually go into the world. And that's pretty much the basic setup for it, and it's not really that good. And even though the stakes are higher and the animation feels more fluid, it doesn't have that soft feel that Sponge on the Run had, but it's trying to be a direct translation of 2D into 3D, and I don't think it works. I really don't think it's. This was kind of a disappointment for me, really. I'm not going to recommend this because, hey, I think you should just watch older SpongeBob episodes and just have a blast, and then remember what you had there.